Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be looking into our emotions and specifically the stories that we tell ourselves and the beliefs that we have that perpetuate the same emotional experience within us. So, as you're becoming more aware of your emotions, you probably notice that there are certain ones that come up for you most often. And these are ones that, whether it be anxiety or our worries or our sadness that moves towards long periods of depression, we all have emotions that reoccur. And there are our most common ones. And these are, they're based on experiences in our life and things that have happened to us. But then we can, based on past experience, create a story around it that then replays in any experience where that little emotion center within us is triggered. And that, sometimes, not always, but the current experience might be something more minor. Maybe it doesn't quite merit the reaction some of us have in that situation, but because it's linked into this past emotional memory within us, it triggers that old reaction. And that's when we start noticing that, we're having this emotional experience frequently or more often. And it's kind of the same storyline within our heads that creates that emotional experience within us. And I always love, I'm not going to remember the name, but there was a TED Talk and it was the 90-second rule. And it explained that the actual physiological effects of an emotion within your body, so it'd be like, the chemical release within you, how it changes the muscles, there's that surge of energy, the actual physiological response lasts 90 seconds past trigger point. And that means that if we're experiencing emotion for longer than that, it's no longer the initial trigger, that one moment that is creating that response. It now moves into what story you are telling yourself about the situation that's perpetuating that emotion. So initial instinctual kind of bodily response to a trigger, 90 seconds. If we look at that, this is a deep story. This is a deep concept. There's a lot of layers to this, but essentially what it's saying is that first trigger, that could be instinctual reaction to this situation. Something happens, bam, we feel that fear, we feel that sadness, we feel that disappointment hooked to our thoughts of this experience. It triggers the reaction within us. Our body tenses, we get a little flip in the stomach, we can feel that surge. Once that's gone, that's no longer our kind of instinctual, triggered physiological reaction. It passes. Now we tell a story about what just happened. This is where our beliefs come in about self and the world and others. And as we're telling this story, we can be heightening our experience of the emotion and continuing it beyond the kind of instinctual bodily response to an experience. So as we're looking at this, you can kind of think of an emotion you have often. I was thinking, for me, I get this really nervous energy, and I've had it since I was a kid. On my stomach, I definitely feel it in my stomach first, and I get a gnawing feeling, and it kind of gets bubbly. and very acidic in my belly. And it can also lead to headaches. But then in my emotional form, I'm feeling this unrest, this dis-ease. And I, upon looking at it, recognize that it's linked to my fear of speaking my truth and the reaction that another person will have, which is linked to my fear of rejection, anger. So like the reaction of the other that will be an unpleasant reaction. So I hold back saying what I need to say. So then there's this like kind of disconnect between my truth and what I'm sharing. And it creates this really anxious feeling within me, this anxious, disconnected feeling. Now, this feeling is kind of ingrained in my emotional body. So whenever I have a little instance where it comes up that, ooh, I'm worried about saying this to this person, I don't know how they'll react, or I don't want them to get angry if I say this. Even if the situation is smaller or not as big, say, as when I was a child, it still kicks up that same emotional response in me. And all of a sudden, I'm having these really negative feelings that maybe aren't justified by the actual situation at hand. Like, it's not quite that big of a deal. But in me, it feels like that big of a deal because of these beliefs that I have and this story that I'm telling myself from past experience, from this emotional memory. So I look into that and I say, what are these beliefs that I'm having? And they are, they go back to, these are your basic needs. And when did they feel threatened by a situation similar to this? So my basic need would have been safety, acceptance, belonging, love. All of those fit into this situation. Because when I would say something that someone did not agree with in my childhood, my safety was threatened because there would be big explosive anger. My belonging would be threatened because all of a sudden I was no longer accepted and I was not okay. And my love was compromised because now I said something they didn't agree with, so they revoke their love. These are the beliefs I have around when I have to tell somebody something they might not agree with or is differing from their opinion or their outlook. So even if in my adult life I say something like, a minor disagreement or a minor thing that differs from someone else's opinion, I bring up all these old beliefs. I'm going to lose my safety. I'm going to lose my acceptance. I'm going to lose my belonging and my love. Whereas in this situation, it's probably not true. And this person across from me, even if they have a negative reaction, I'm an adult. I know where my sources of safety, love, belonging are outside of this person. I know I'm okay. Sometimes that emotional response and that emotional memory doesn't know that. And so you'll start feeling these feelings that are strong, very strong. And it'll be curious, like, wow, why am I feeling this? And this really affected me. And so when you notice that in yourself, and it could be different feelings, not these ones, but deep sadness, look into it not focusing on this situation, but step back and look at your beliefs around it. What are you believing is threatened in this situation? So, those are the basics: safety, security, nourishment, nurturing, love, belonging, acceptance. And if you feel those are being threatened, it's creating this emotion. And then look into the story you're telling yourself. If I do this, then this will come up. Or it means that I'm always outcast, or I'm always a failure, or I will never succeed, or this will last forever. So look at what belief you're having that this situation is telling you what you're lacking, what's missing, what this person, how they threatened you. And then look at your story around it. What are you telling yourself that this means or this will lead to? And then I always just give myself a moment of saying, is this true? Is this really true right here and right now? And typically it's not. And as adults, we can remove ourselves from these situations, or we can find resources of taking care of ourselves outside of this one little bubble of experience. So once you're kind of seeing this belief and this story you're telling yourself about the situation or the emotion, now look and step back and say, what am I needing here? And whatever that is, it's probably one of those, love, belonging, safety. Step back and say, okay, maybe I'm not getting that right here and right now in this situation, but how can I shift and put myself somewhere where I can get that? And remember that you can. You can. So remember where your resources are, and then nurture yourself in that way. And notice that you do not have to stay in the negative emotion this way. You be with it, you learn from it, you notice what story is behind it, the beliefs, and you nurture your way out of it. So, this week I encourage you to be with these emotions in a nurturing way, looking at learning from them, looking at those stories you tell yourself beyond the first 90 seconds, and then nurture yourself in the ways that you need to. If you enjoy these little talks and would like to join us for a group session or individual coaching, you can find us at newleafpath.com. I hope to see you all very soon.